Okay, hello guys. So in this video I'll be talking about more about the NBA, right? And yeah, man. So I'll be making a little like different type of video about NBA, and in today's video I'll be talking about the NBA like five like worst loss in NBA. Like me talk about like the biggest margin of victory in this video, right? Do you know what makes me want to talk about the NBA like the top 5 game worst losses? So the reason why I want to make this video is because, man, because when I watch NBA, like almost every day we had like a 30-point blowout. Like there's been a tons of blowout in the NBA this year, which is why I don't like it that much, because it's not entertaining. The game is boring and stuff. There's been a tons of blowout this year, and this is not looking good. Like the team's defense and the offense are like struggling, right? And a lot of teams are allowing 110 points per game, and that is not good. Well, probably you can make an excuse like, oh, the team shoots a lot of 3 point. Well, technically that's true, and they defend and shoot tons of three, and that's why the margin keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like it just never stops growing. So yeah, man, I've been seeing like a lot of like 40-point blowouts, and I did see a 50-point blowout like at least three times this year. Yeah, and it's not looking good. And a lots of like, I know that there's like at least 1,000 NBA games per year, and we only see like a one like 50-point lead, right? But now we're seeing like 50-point lead like almost 10 times this year, and that's not okay. So so yeah, there's something wrong with the NBA, and even the Warrior gets blown out, like at their home, like nearly like 20, like over 20 points like 4 times at the end of 2018, and it's not good. Even the Warrior gets blown out. Like all the good teams are getting blown out too, and that's another thing, right? Against like average team or like bad team or good teams, whatever, man. But let me go over the 2018 like worst loss in NBA. I'm talking about 40 plus point or 50 plus. So anyway, so my number 5 on my list, number 5 worst loss on my list is the Golden State Warrior. I'll only talk about like good teams and the loss that really shocks everybody versus the Utah Jazz, right? The Warrior versus the Utah Jazz in like April of 2018. Is it April? Searching that up right now, right? Yeah, so on 410 on April 10th of 2018, the Warrior lost about 40 points, right? Yeah, the Jazz has been giving Warrior a hard time this year, right? Starting in like beginning of 2018, the Warrior comes at the Jazz twice, right? And then the first game, the Utah Jazz like shockingly like beat the Warrior by like 30 points, right? And then next time Warrior come over, then the Warrior lose 40 points. Yeah, I know that last season 2017 and 2018, the first half 2018, the Jazz was giving Warrior a really hard time. And let's see the reason. Like I forgot the reason like how the Warrior did lose like 40 points to the Jazz, but I will remember this for life, because it is a huge loss against a top tier defensive like team, right? So what's going on with the Warriors right now? Yeah, Warriors just missing a lot of free throw, and Warrior has like injury problems. Steph and Durant like gets hurt easily, and this is why they lose and stuff, right? Yeah, and also the Golden State Warriors are shooting like less than like 30% from the field, because Jazz has like a really crazy defense, and Warrior didn't bother trying, and then they were 5 from 3 from the field, from 19 field, and they were like terrible from, and free throws not that much, but surprisingly I think the Warrior caused way too many turnovers too, which is why this kills the team so badly, right? Yeah, I think the Warrior had a lot of turnover, like about 18, I believe. And this is why they've been losing to the Utah Jazz like crazy, and how the Utah Jazz like outplay the Warrior. Like I said, man, like they shoot. I mean, this team shoots a lots of threes, like crazily three and high percentage field goal, and I think they caused about 15 turnover, which I cannot criticize that much because Warrior only caused 18 when probably the Jazz caused like 15. So, and Jazz has like a lot more rebounds than comparing to the Golden State Warrior. Not that much in rebounds, but yeah, they did have lots of rebounds too. So yeah, and the Warrior didn't care, like they're probably just rest for playoffs and stuff. So nothing to criticize much about the Golden State Warrior versus the Utah Jazz. Right. So anyway, let's go into the much bigger loss. So the fourth worst loss of the 2018 in NBA. The fourth worst loss is the San Antonio Spurs versus the Suns, right? In January of probably like 2018. I don't know, but yeah, the Suns versus the Spurs in 2018. I remember that the Suns lost about like 48 points in 8-point loss. So I cannot remember what they did the Warrior loss. I mean the Phoenix Suns loss. Right, so there's been quite a huge loss this year, so sorry there's a big pause there because I'm trying to search like when did the Suns like lost to the Spurs in 2018. Oh yeah, here it is. It's actually in February of 2018. So like yeah, so in February 2018, the Phoenix Suns lost to the San Antonio Spurs by 48 points, and technically the Phoenix Suns play at home, right? Yeah, and the Phoenix Suns are like really horrible this year. I mean, this is why they want a tank, so that way they can have the first draft pick, and somehow they got DeAndre Ayton. You know, this guy is pretty decent. I mean, he's pretty good. I mean, that's why they needed him, right? And so the Spurs, it's kind of embarrassing that you're losing like almost 50 points at your home, right? I mean, San Antonio Spurs are a good team, you know, because they have great confidence, they maintain themselves well and stuff. But everybody knows Phoenix Suns are a garbage team because who's ever been watching all the NBA games, everybody knows Phoenix Suns are a lousy team. Yeah, we all know that, but you cannot lose at home by 48 points. It's unacceptable. I mean, no no team like loses much at home. I mean, even 20 points seems unacceptable, right? If you lose 48 points at your home, then that's not good because I remember one time, like beginning of 2017, 2018, beginning season, on the first day of the game, you know, the Portland like blew out the Phoenix Suns like horribly, like almost like they had like a 58-point lead, right? And then they get blown out by 48 points. And then they lose 48 points again, and this time they play against the San Antonio Spurs, you know. Get blown out at your home 48 points twice, and one 2017, one 2018, and that's not good. Like the Phoenix Suns were like horrible this. Yeah, they're really horrible, right? Let's see why the Phoenix Suns like lose so badly, right? So the Phoenix Suns, you know, they're shooting at a 33% field goal, you know. They only made like 3 threes, like very low threes, and have a terrible free throws, and they have let's see. And they didn't have that many turnovers too. So I mean, typically when you have a lot of turnover, you typically will lose a game, right? So yeah, man. This is why, I mean, most teams did lose like 30, 40 point lot, mainly because they have a lot of turnover, right? But in this game, you know, I calculated that the Phoenix Suns only had 11 turnovers, and they're losing almost 50 points. I mean, that's the part they did good, and they have like some steals as well. So that prevent them from having a bigger loss. Yeah, technically because Spurs led a lot in the in 3 quarters. So I think in 3 quarters the Spurs already led like 47 points. So the Spurs didn't try hard, and the Suns trying to come back, but they just cannot come back, and they only score like 50 points by the end of 3rd quarter. They score about 50. I think exactly 50. So 50 points in 3 quarters is not acceptable. And the Spurs was just shooting like over 50%. Like I think they didn't even shoot 50% field goal, but they did shoot a lot of threes, and somehow the Spurs has a lot more turnovers compared to the Phoenix Suns. So yeah, so there's a Spurs could have done things a lot better, and the Suns like improved in, they somehow like outplayed the Spurs. I mean, they're doing better in certain areas, so seeing they're doing better, see though the Suns are doing a little better than Spurs in certain area, and they're losing 48 points in this night in the Garden. Like that's not good. They have to play better, man. But hopefully the Suns will get better this year. And yeah, they've been losing like crazy beginning, but then they've been winning games somehow, right? So anyway, man, so let's get into the game of Portland. So lost 48 point, right? So here is another bigger loss of this year's, right? So what loss should I go next? Oh, the Atlanta Hawks versus the Denver Nuggets. Versus no, I think the Utah Jazz the Jazz versus the Dallas Mavericks. I think that's probably the 3rd worst loss of the year. So yeah. So the Dallas Mavericks defeated the Utah Jazz by exactly 50 points. And this is not good, man. I'm like, yeah, I did make a video about Jazz clobbering the Jazz, right? I mean, the Jazz are a pretty good team, They've been giving, like I said, man, they've been giving Warriors a hard time this year. But then, but since the Jazz are like declining, like they didn't play well this season, I mean, they're inconsistent, like they probably don't give Warrior a hard time, right? So I trying to look at that game, like why did Jazz lose 50 points? Like I kind of forgot now. So yeah, so the Mavericks blew out the Jazz by 50 points, and most people are saying that the Dallas Mavericks are going nowhere, and this team's horrible, and this team doesn't get anyone's attention. I mean, that's just my opinion. And why did this team blew out like 50 points? Now, let me put this in perspective, man. And the Dallas Mavericks also can improve this game too, right? I mean, they scored like 118 points, and they hold the Utah Jazz by 6-8 points. Even though both teams does play defense well, but for the most part, Dallas Mavericks also have trouble. Also have like defensive problem too, right? And why would you let a team that scores 68 points and you play against a team that doesn't have good defense? Like, I don't understand that. I mean, this is why it's the top worst loss on my list, like in the number 3 spot. I mean, people should agree with me by just listening to this. Like, there's no reason why you should lose to the Jazz by 50 points. I mean, lose to the Dallas by 50 points. There's no reason. Nobody should lose this much. I mean, if they play against the Warrior, then maybe losing 50 points is still not acceptable. It doesn't matter how good the team is, but you shouldn't lose 50. And perhaps, man, like the Jazz even tied with the Dallas Mavericks in like mid of 2nd quarter. And and then the Utah Jazz like probably only trail like, let's see, they only like behind like 12 points at the half, and then they get outscored by 30 in the 2nd half. Like this team wants to give up or something. Yeah, I know the Jazz want to give up, conserve their energy and save their players from injuries, but in the 2nd half they only scored 22 points, and that's how much in both of these quarters, but Jazz Jazz only scored 22 points in the half. That's how much they scored in the second quarter and the first quarter. Except they scored, the first quarter is more than the Jazz like second half. Like that doesn't make any sense, man. You're scoring twice as less as you did in the first half. That's not good, and this is why the Dallas win so huge. And so let me say something. So the Utah Jazz only shoots 30% from the field goal, right? And 6 of 35 from the threes, and their free throw is horrible, right? And they had a lot of turnovers, and they don't have a lot, and they didn't do a good rebound, right? And Jazz, like, since they have a lot of big players, I expect them to get lots of rebounds and stuff, right? But then the Dallas Mavericks are getting way too many rebounds, way too many assists. I mean, steals, I cannot criticize that, and they had a lot of turnovers too, right? Because Jazz does a lot of steals, right? Both teams does a lot of steals, both teams has a lot of turnover. Only 2 turnovers difference. The Dallas Mavericks have turnover problem and free throw problems, and they still can blow a team by 50 points. I mean, that's amazing. And because the Jazz are because the Dallas Mavericks are shooting like 58% from the field and 12 of 20 from 3, and they didn't shoot a lot of threes, just like the Houston Rocket where they dropped like 26 point on like the Washington Wizards, right? If the Dallas Mavericks like didn't have a lot of turnover, 19 turnover is way too much, right? If they didn't have a lot of turnover, if they shoot free throw well, and if they shoot like the Houston Rocket, man, oh god, this Jazz team's gonna be in trouble. They only scored like 60 points, where the Dallas Mavericks scored like 140, and that's gonna be an 80-point loss there. And people talk about it, and boy, oh boy, like this team is gonna be in huge trouble if they face a team that play like a Houston Rocket. And yeah, but even Houston Rocket don't play consistent, right? And Jazz aren't. I mean, both teams does shoot a lot of 3, but Jazz just hardly shoot any 3, and Mavericks shoots like twice as many 3 as the Utah Jazz, right? The Dallas Mavericks, good thing they don't have a good 3-pointers, but then, they might be good in other area comparing to the Houston Rocket, right? So Jazz got a big problem there. If they score 60 points against the Rocket that shoots like 26 threes, and people, I think, and it's true too, right? So anyway, let me get into the second worst loss in the history, right? So it's the Chicago Bulls versus the Boston Celtics. So we all know that the Chicago Bulls are, they are really bad teams, but they play against the Boston Celtics, right? And the Boston Celtics are not doing well this season for some reason, just because they have too many shooters, like too many people in the lineup for the Celtics, and the Celtics has not figured out their way, like how to win games and stuff, right? And the Chicago Bulls gets blown out by 56 points on the Celtics, right? I mean, Chicago Bulls are really terrible in defense, right? And this is why the Golden State Warriors dropped 92 points on the Chicago at the half. 92 points, that's almost 100 points, and the Warriors potentially could have scored 150, but they didn't want it to, right? So so let me see, like, why did the Chicago Bulls lose like 56 points to the Boston Celtics? And this is the largest margin of the victory in Celtics history. And the Bulls gets blown out by 56 points at their home, and this is not good. Well, technically, like I said, man, like the Bulls play so horrible in the second half. Like they play atrocious, really bad, and they were outscored by like They were outscored by like 36 points, I believe. Let's see if I do calculation. No, 35 points. So the Bulls was outscored by 35 points in the half, and the Celtics nearly booed the Bulls by like 60 points at their home. Well, technically, because we all know Celtic doesn't even do well, and let's get into details of like why the Chicago Bulls lost to the Boston Celtics by 56 points in their garden, right? So yeah, so the Chicago Bulls, you know, I cannot criticize much on the free throw because they only missed like 5 points and they didn't shoot the ball well in threes and they didn't shoot well at all. They didn't play well at all. They had like 50 turnovers. I mean, that's kind of a lot, and didn't rebound well, and they didn't have lots of steals and blocks. They didn't have lots of assists, and they didn't have lots of rebounds too. So this is why the Chicago Bulls are losing by 56 points. While on the other hand, the the Boston Celtics had a lot of rebound. They have a lot of assists, and they have lots of steals and blocks, causing Bulls turnover. And they only had 7 turnovers. So the Boston Celtics only had 7 turnover. That's really good, right? I mean, they're shooting about 50% from. They shoot like 54% from free throw, field goals, which is not too crazy. If they shoot 60, then that would be really crazy. And they're shooting 22 of threes. They're shooting like the Houston Rocket. I mean, this is why they win so huge, right? I mean, in order to play well in threes like Houston Rocket, you have to score over 23s, right? And then they shoot 11 from 15 from the free throw line. So not too much criticism about that. So in this game, in this biggest blowout compared to the third one, yes, the Boston did shoot a lot of threes. They did. And so who shoots a lot of three? You know, entire roster, you know, Kyrie Irving didn't shoot much three, but a lot of young guys like Jason Tatum, Marcus Morris, and Marcus Smart, and the Boston's bench even shoots threes. Crazy amount of three. And Chicago Bulls, you know, they just like give up, man. Like, everybody shoots so horrible for Chicago Bulls except for Shaquille Harrison only shot like 20 points that night, and everybody was just playing like garbage, right? Yeah, and just to let you know that I did kind of watch the Chicago Bulls versus the Boston Celtics in the highlight, and the reason why the Bulls also lost about 56 points. The reason why they lost, there's another reason why they lost aside from the second half, atrocious second half, because in the first quarter, the Celtics gave themselves a 17-point lead, went on 0 on the 17th run, so that adds up 17 points. So I mean, even without that, means the Bulls had the bad start from the beginning, but then the second quarter, and they pretty much even out with the Boston Celtics, and then Boston Celtics just took over the game and beat up the Bulls from beginning to start. So only in the second quarter the Bulls try to come back, right? I could see the score, like they try to come back, but they gave up after that. The 3 quarters, Bulls just playing like lousy in the 3 quarters. Right, first quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, Bulls are just playing like they just play so terrible, right? Like they play no heart and soul into the game whatsoever. And this is just in 3 quarters, so Boston Celtics could have won bigger if the Bulls played out in the second quarter, but we don't want that to happen. We don't want the Bulls to lose like crazy and lose so much, because people will be upset and then it will go on news. Anyway, 50-point leads in 3 quarters, that's not good. So anyway, here's the #1 biggest loss of the NBA in 2018. And this is the worst loss I have ever seen in my life. Worst loss ever. So it is the Memphis Grizzly versus the Charlotte Hornets. And yeah, and that has got to be the worst loss I have ever seen in history. Worst loss in 2018, worst loss in this 21st century. Like no team has ever lost like 60+ points for a very long time, for like over 20 years, right? Yeah, and so the worst loss that everybody see, or the Grizzly fans see, or the Hornets see, or everybody see, all of us, all the basketball fans, all the basketball viewer, all the basketball audience. Worst loss ever, 61 points, 79 to 140. Oh my goodness. I'm like, that's like crazy loss. And this is so sad. Like the Grizzlies are a really good team, right? And they've been giving Warriors a lot of hard time too. And they even beat the Warriors by like 10 points, right? And that then in March 22nd of 2018, you know, they just had a 6-point loss, right? And so there was finally a 6-point loss, but it just hasn't happened for a long time. And in fact, as a matter of fact, the the Grizzlies was behind as much as 65 points. That's like the biggest lead in NBA, and Grizzlies didn't even had a single lead. They didn't even not even lead the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, I get it. They played back to back, and not an excuse, man. You're professional. You supposed to deal with tough condition. Like, don't give me like lame excuse like, oh, we play back to back. Oh, we're gonna get tired. Oh, we want to get tanked so we can get a bad draft pick. No excuse, man. Okay, people will not accept it, and they're just not gonna watch this garbage. They probably will want a refund and stuff. So let me get over with quarter by quarter, like why the Memphis Grizzlies lost by 60 points. So in the first quarter, you know, down by like 23 points, and then at the half, they're already down by 33 points, and then both quarter, first and third quarter, like Grizzlies get outscored by like more than 20 points, which add up to 40 points already. And by the time they get the third quarter, they already down like 50 something points. They were down like by 55 points, and then you know the Charlotte Hornets had the first 60-point lead, and you know in the fourth quarter. Yeah, man, that's just horrible to see. 6 point. So yeah, so let's see why the Grizzlies lose so much on the Charlotte Hornets. So Grizzlies, like I said, had terrible rebound. They didn't do much steal, but they have horrible defense, even though they have 7 blocks. But then without so many blocks, then the Grizzlies would have lost probably 70 points. So they shoot 30% field goal, you know, didn't have many shots, and hardly shoots 3, and terrible free throw, like I said, man. But Hornets, on the other hand, didn't have terrible dribble, but they did shoot a lot of threes, 19 from 40 from the 3-point line. So Grizzly has like terrible like 3 points. The Grizzly has a terrible defending 3-point, which is why the Hornets score lots of 3, right? And they shoot more than 50% of the field. They have lots of rebounds and stuff. They have lots of like steals and blocks and rebounds and assists. More than twice assists of the Memphis Grizzly. Like, you know, the Charlotte Hornets weren't good like a few years ago, right? You know, like back when I was like a freshman or a sophomore, or like 5 or 6 years ago. You know what, that the Charlotte Hornets was known as the Bobcats, right? You know, whereas they lose like 30 points like almost every single game on the road. I mean, come on, man. The Grizzlies lost like 61 points against the team that played horrible, known as the Charlotte Bobcats. Oh my god. Like, this is even more embarrassing, right? Oh, I think there's another big reason like why the Memphis Grizzlies like lost 60 points. You know why? I give you one more reason, but nobody had noticed this. Notice that the Memphis Grizzlies has like tons of injury problem. They have like all their main players are out, and they don't have their bench player, right? They play against the Charlotte, you know, who are fully healthy except DY's how. I mean, DY doesn't do much for the Charlotte Hornets. But just Kemba Walker goes off. Like, he had 46 points with 10-3 field, and even without Kemba Walker, you know, if you remove Kemba Walker from the Charlotte Hornets, like Hornets can still win about like 20 or 30 points on the Memphis Grizzlies, even without the best player, Kemba Walker. And so you know that the Memphis only had like 8 players on their roster, you know, because the rest of the bench are injured. Like typically when you play in NBA, you need at least like 10 to 15 players, right? But then Memphis Grizzlies are running low in their players. I mean, due to injury problem, like this is why they have to conserve themselves, right? And this is why, you know, they lose 60 points. I mean, if you have lack of like players, if you don't have like 6 or 5 NBA players, then somehow somehow the coach needs to like sit them out frequently because you know, because they don't want to get injuries and stuff, right? Yeah, lack of player can sometimes cause you to lose a lot more games, but then you know you just have to care for your players too. So yeah, and they just have really bad rotation stuff. So anyway, I got to end this video off here, and peace out, and hope you like this video. And yeah, man, just a lot of bad loss this year, and that's horrible. And I've been seeing that the Raptors lost 33 points against the trashy Orlando Magic yesterday. Oh my god.